Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We are going to start this second part of the module 4 here. We are going to talk about the change. You see this because of the pandemic or coronavirus, a lot of changes are happening around the world. Same you can see most of the organization are going virtual or online. You can see this example of the teaching at the same time. You can see the example of online banking. You can see the example of the online grocery shop. This is all about change. But we have to learn where the changes are required and how to make them permanent part of the organization. This concept is really important for most of the organization, because this change is not an easy thing and organization normally suffer and the people get frustrated in this regard. So according to this lecture, we are first understanding, or the first objective is to understand and apply the organizational change. Here we will be learning and defining some organizational process. For example, if you try to change the change in general, it involves the making something different, something new. So organizational change refers to the action in which a company or business alters a major component of its organization. What is the major component? For example, you were doing offline grocery, and now you are doing online grocery. Previously you were doing offline banking, now you are using apps. So this is a major change, permanent change in this regard. So you actually need to change the all processes in this regard. You were initially asking student to come and do the biometrics at home, at a branch. So but now you are asking them to do it online, and just with your civil ID we can easily identify you, and you can create your bank account online while staying at your home maybe. So this is the process you have altered. Initially it was offline, now it is online in this regard. So let's talk about the two goals. The change has two goals. For example, to improve the ability of the organization to adopt the change into its environment. Environment means overall environment. You see, this is the business environment where you are operating. The other banks are coming. If you as a bank manager or bank muscat is not cooperating and not updating your bank muscat app, then ultimately you will lose the business in this situation. So change ultimately you also need to upgrade the skills and need to change the behavior of the employee accordingly. You might be getting more emails and for the account opening issues or any other issues, but if you are not upgrading the skills and employees are not more trained and accepting for such online queries, then at the end of the day you are going to lose the business in this situation. So let's go further. The example or the main model we are going to use over here is the three step process we are going to. First is the unfreezing, then it's the movement, and the refreezing. What is unfreezing? Like ice. You the ice is already a frozen one, then you put it in a heat, and let's say initially it was in a box, then you put that water into a ball form of shape, then you have actually changed the shape. So this is the change you see. Initially you unfreeze it, then you make a movement, ultimately you refreeze it. See, if you go for the particular organization related example, you can see the unfreezing, the employee involvement in that change is required. The finally your knowledge sharing, for example, what sort of online recordings are required, what type of technology is required. Ultimately this will help to understand people to, yes, we need this change, it is really important, and ultimately we need a new form of organization. The leadership is really important in the organization. The leader have to be model in this regard, and they have to act with their actions and ultimately show their commitments by demonstrating their vision and mission for this change. Ultimately the implication and application of the change is required, and then they make that change permanent. So let's take the example of unfreezing. You see there are three key things: determining what need to be changed, ensuring support for the top management, and creating the need for that particular change. This is the unfreezing. Until the management is not committed, until this change is not communicated properly to the employee, you are not going to involve them particularly in this change process. Like this virtual organization or delivering lecture online or doing banking online, the change had to be communicated to your employees in this regard. Then you have the next step in this situation. Your step is to give the change and to make it permanent. There are three things more important. You have to communicate this change widely and clearly, promote and empower the actions. For example, there could be mistake over there while you are trying, let's say, this recording first time. For example, you are trying the bank muscat app first time, there are errors. So in this situation you have to be patient with each other, because you are in the learning process. So you empower them and ask them, okay, you take your action, you take the responsibility at the same time, but minor errors are acceptable, because we are going to initiate this change for the very first time. So involve other as much as possible. For example, your customers are really important, who are going to give you the feedback in this situation, and to create the win-win strategy in this regard. So then we have the final step, that is called the rephrasing. Means you have to confirm that change has been successful. Like you can see, the Bank Muscat app is now permanently there, and hardly small features are going to be updated with the time, after 1 month or after 1 year, hardly. But initially it could have many problems. For example, civil ID number is not being recognized. For example, the thumb expression online is not being recognized. For example, your location, you want to verify that within the Oman you are accessing, or you are accessing out of the Oman to create an account over there. Then what are the processes in this situation? So you make that change permanent, and the three things are important. Tie the new changes into the culture, develop and promote it, and other training, especially trainings, are really important. And then don't forget to celebrate the success. You could give them a backup to your employees and just celebrate it in this situation. So let's talk about some of the forces which actually cause the change. For example, the technology, you see, with the time technology is changing, nature of the work force, it demands the change. Economic shocks like COVID-19 we have, then you see everyone is going online in this situation. Competition, let's say if 100 of banks are coming in Oman, then you have the competition, then you need a change in this regard. Everyone is offering offline banking, you are giving online banking. Then after online banking, it is a mobile banking. Once it is a mobile banking, then give you a special promotion and offers in this regard. So you see, this competition is giving some changes to attract and retain the customers. So social trends, especially social trends like mobile trends are there, you can see, and the people are not coming for grocery shopping at the same time, but yes, they go for the clothing and other stuff to enjoy the shopping at the same time. So these are these social trends will recommend what changes are required in your organization at the same time. So world politics is once again an important thing. For example, if you see in the Dubai, the state, the real estate business is why it is more in the surge are growing, because they allow to be purchased by the international investor, and ultimately they are giving the nationality to this. Same you are now going to replicate in Oman with the new policies, where you are going to bring the investor, and you are allowing them to, okay, you can take this land or this flat or part of this to improve the real estate business. So the politics is changing and the things are changing, and you want to become a real actor, then you have to act accordingly, not only at the organizational level but at the government level in this regard. Another process for the change is the 8-step process. It is somewhat similar to that, but it is in more detail. If you see that the establishment of the sense of the urgency, and then form the coalition and enough power to lead the change, create a new vision, then communicate the vision through the organization, empower others, and plan proper change, and consolidate and improvements, and finally reinforce that particular change in this regard. We will talk about this process more in our live session during our class further. So let's go further, and we have final implications, and let's conclude this lecture that the change is really important. And once you try to bring the change in the organization, keep it in mind, the people behavior change. They initially go in a stress, but the optimal stress is good, no problem. People go in the stress initially, but at the with the time they will learn that this change is really important for them. This is the way to grow the business and ultimately to secure their jobs at the same time. So consider that as a manager, you are the change agent in the organization. The decision you made, your role modeling and behaviors will shape the organizational change culture in this regard. Your organization politics and practices will determine the degree to which the organization learns and adopt to change the environmental factors. That's all for the today's session, and let's conclude this in the next lecture. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.